Who do we have next door, Robin? Do we
Hey,
know?
everybody, how are you?
I know Rodney is going to be there because he wants to talk.
They want to
I
disturb
wonder if we
the
got a lot of people
conversation.
in there. Go check real quick. Just get an idea of
Amy's coming in here
who's in
tonight,
there.
right?
And then we'll get started.
Hello,
How are you?
we're doing well. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir, I can.
Okay, well, we're about ready to go live, so I'm gonna put you, and as we discussed, if you have anything in the, during the meeting, she'll kind of flag it, and I'll try to direct you all. Bring her in, all right?
Okay,
All right,
thank you.
Thank you.
Might want to set her on the side close to the microphone or something. Make it hear it better, maybe.
She won't be able to hear better there.
Huh?
She won't be able to hear better there. There's the.
Oh, I was talking about we could hear through your microphone.
If she
Give her-
says.
Oh, yeah, I'll bring it over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, you ready? Okay, I call to order the Town Board regular meeting, September 15th, 2020. Before we do the Pledge of Allegiance, let me just say that tonight, April Sneed, Commissioner, is not able to be here in attendance in person, so she's online with us by communication device, and we'll be participating in the meeting that way. Also, I just want to say that many of you guys may know Ronnie Williams. He was a long-term mayor of Garner, and he passed away this week, if you guys didn't know that. And just want to remember him in our prayers this week. I think the family will have a private service as of now. They talked about maybe having some type of later celebration for public, when things get better with the pandemic. But my understanding as of now, it's going to be just a family, close friend, private ceremony. I know he did a lot for Garner and served a long time, and he will be missed. So everybody just kind of remember him. And after the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, we have Brian Cole in our attendance, and he is pastor at Exchange Church, which is just about across the street from us here. And just want to welcome you. And after the prayer, if you want to say something about your church, that will be fine. So let's all rise and say pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for letting me pray for you guys tonight and with you guys. Our church has been here for several years, and we are grateful to be a part of the Rolesville community. Let me pray. Lord, we know through Scripture that you promise in Psalm 54 that you are the helper and the sustainer of our souls. And in this crazy time, we are desperate need of your help. We need your help with wisdom, and I pray that you would give these friends and community leaders wisdom. Make them wise beyond their years and far beyond their experience. Lord, we need your help with unity. And in a time where everything has the potential to divide us, I pray that those who sit on this bench would see the value in each other's gifts, abilities, and opinions. And I pray that as we are different in what we believe and what we think, we would share concern for our neighbors. And so, Lord, I pray that you would help us seek unity without uniformity. Lord, we need your help with all of our efforts, and I pray that you would be pleased with what we have strived to accomplish in this day and in this season, and that we would trust you with the things that are out of our hands. And so, Lord, I pray that you would sustain our souls as you promised. And at the end of our day, let us rest with a clear conscience and the sure promise of eternity with you. You are our helper and sustainer. And it's your name that we pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for coming out tonight. Appreciate that. Okay. Moving on. Next item is the review of the agenda. Is there any changes or additions, requests from the board?
Motion to approve.
Got a motion, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. I do have a proclamation, Suicide Prevention Week, and I will not read that. Go to the website and look it up if you would. And being I'm not going to read it, is I want to read a letter from one of the citizens that sent to me. You know, the proclamation has a lot of what is and what as and all that kind of stuff, and I encourage you guys to read it. But this note really touched me, and I kind of want to read the note instead. So it says, please take a moment to introduce myself. I am a resident of Rolesville and a retired military veteran who recently formed a Rolesville-based nonprofit called 22 Saves Hockey Foundation. While hockey appears in the title, it is not about hockey. It's about using hockey as a vehicle to prevent veteran suicide. My reason for writing is ask you to consider mentioning the September is Suicide Prevention Month in your next news blast. September 6th through 12th is also Suicide Prevention Week. As you may be well aware, suicide isn't discriminative. It affects every community, every social-economic group, and people from all walks of life. It's a tragedy that haunts every individual and family who has suffered the loss of a loved one or friend from suicide. Suicide prevention needs to be a grassroots, full-scale operation. Everyone has a role and responsibility to play in suicide prevention. As a veteran, I would also bring to your attention the veterans that are particularly vulnerable, often feeling isolated and lack a sense of belonging and connectedness and in their communities. I like to see Rolesville as a model community coming together to address the issue of suicide prevention and establishing a blueprint for other communities in North Carolina. I know in my own small neighborhood of Heritage Gates, there have been at least 2 members of our neighborhood lost to suicide in the past 3 years. One was a veteran, and that's too many. That's too many. Suicide within the veteran population is 1.5 times that of non-veterans, and the trend is even greater among female veterans. With a Rolesville-based nonprofit, Rolesville is in position to make a great impact in an effort to reduce veteran suicide and serve as a model across the state. Whatever acknowledgement, one of the facts, several facts was presented, in the little thing I was hearing on the way over, and one of them said that 7 times the normal rate of call suicide line hotline now than it was prior to pandemic. So it's a lot of people, and I may have misunderstood this and I may have misheard it, but I thought it said that 1 in 4 teenage group it has thought about it or considered in the last two couple months. And if you think about it, their whole culture is upside down with schools being closed and football teams not participating like we would be right now. So it's a tough time. So this note from Deb really touched a point that I think we need. So and we've had it hit close to home here. I know for myself, I've had a team member in my work committed suicide about 7-8 years ago. Person go home, everything normal, and they don't come back, which really makes you think. I've had a neighbor live beside me, it's kind of bad to get a call, you're out of town on a business trip and you get a call that your neighbor has committed suicide, And we've had even, our staff. So it can hit close to home, and you don't know where either. So, so whatever we can do to, I guess, acknowledge the need to make this one of our focus. I know we get so stressed out and thinking so much about the COVID-19 so much that I think something as important as this could be overlooked. So kind of want to say that, and I did do a proclamation for this, and I would suggest you go read it. But thank you, Deb, for sending me this note and bringing this to our attention. So thank you much. Okay. Next item is the consent agenda. It's a long one. 7 items. Most of them are called for public hearings. One is annexation petition, a text amendment, and also the last one is preliminary subdivision plat. And as always, we can vote on them as a whole group, or we can pull 1 or 2 of them out to talk about and discuss and vote separately. So what's the wishes of the board on the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda as stated.
Got a motion. Is there a second? Motion, a second. Is any other discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, board. Appreciate that. And we'll move on to the items of business. There's 3 public hearings on the agenda for tonight. All of them are related. All of them has to do with the Cobblestone crossing, economic development that's being proposed. We must do all 3 separately. So I think the way I'll do this is we will have all 3 public hearings separately. And then after I close the 3rd one, I'll turn it over to the board to either vote as one motion that includes all 3, or 3 different motions, depending on what our attorney advises us to do on that. But I think we'll do the public hearings first and get through all. We'll hear everything first before we kind of decide voting. So just to get a general idea of what the first one has to do with. It has to do with the land that we currently own, and for us to decide if we're going to turn that land over for economic development purposes. That's the framework of that one. Framework of the second public hearing is intended to convey a simple interest in the property which is currently owned by a town to Cobblestone for economic project. So the second one has to do, the first one didn't have to do with Cobblestone, it's just that we want to use it for economic development. The second one said we're going to use Cobblestone, or we're going to enter a simple, agreement for that. And then the third and final one has to do with the economic development agreement, which we have some things that we have talked about partnering them with. So the third one is more, I guess, more like we normally would take as, this is kind of what we're going to be doing and kind of what we will see there. So, so any questions on that from the board? So like I said, the first one I'm opening up for public hearing, and the first one has to do with, do we really want to use this property that we own as this economic development property? And that's well as Cobblestone or anything. It's just that we want to use it for that. Okay. All right. Well, I will. You will want to do an introduction or open the public hearing first. Okay.
Mayor, it's our recommendation that you would allow town staff and Representatives Cobblestone to do a short presentation.
Yep.
And upon completion of that, there could be questions of the board. And then upon completion, when you're ready and satisfied that you have the information, then you would start the public hearings.
Right. And just to be clear, my understanding is we would only do this one time. and it would be, the introduction would be for all three.
That's right, that's correct.
Public hearings, so we're not going to go through this 3 times. So, but we will do the public hearing 3 different times to kind of be legal, so. So, Michael, are you first on the leadoff hitter here?
So, we can have everybody else come forward. Do you mind if we have everybody come in, if we have capacity?
Yeah, you can keep the spacing, that'd be great.
Okay.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Town Commissioners. I'll just kind of say a few words to bring us up to speed regarding the proposed Cobblestone development project, and then allow for the developer to also speak if you so desire. So the town and the developer, Cobblestone Crossing of Rolesville LLC, have been working together now over a year. Both parties have agreed, as described in a letter of intent earlier this year, to partner together to build a downtown town center mixed-use development in the northwest quadrant of Young and Main Street intersection. And this would accommodate a variety of uses: commercial, residential, retail, and government. At the July 21st town board meeting, the developer gave a presentation of this town center project, and the board also reviewed a draft economic development agreement. The agreement identifies the responsibilities and obligations of both parties in partnering together and outlines the commercial development incentives offered by the town. Pursuant to this agreement, Cobblestone will entitle, design, and build the project. This is approximately a $40 million investment in town, consisting of at least 40,000 square feet of commercial space, which will increase the town's commercial tax base. It's in the early stages, but we expect that wages from the jobs created will pay similar or greater to existing retail and restaurant jobs in Rolesville, located in Rolesville. This project also creates diverse housing options in a walkable environment with gathering spaces that are close to Main Street Park. Since that July 21st meeting, the developer hosted a virtual session on August 11th for the public to learn more about the project. And then on August 18th, the town board further discussed the project and set the public hearings that are on tonight's agenda. And as the mayor might have mentioned, these public hearings are required under North Carolina general statute when an economic development agreement and a purchase and sale agreement are being considered by the town. So the purpose of these hearings is to really take public comment concerning the town's proposal to enter into a series of agreements concerning this economic development project and regarding appropriation of town money for this project. So I won't go into kind of, I guess, some of those, what these 3 hearings are, as you mentioned. But the town has made a tentative conclusion that entering into the proposed agreement with Cobblestone will increase the town's taxable property, employment, and business prospects. It's an opportunity for the town to participate in the project and promote community and economic development. Through its participation, Rolesville is in a position to increase its attractiveness to visitors and residents, and to elevate the economic vitality of the entire community by promoting its town center. So with that, I can answer any questions and/or defer to our town attorney or town manager if there's anything else that should be said that I left out.
Any questions? Good. Thank you, Michael. Maybe see if April got a question.
Are you good?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, next, want to speak, step up and state your name, if you would, address.
Hi, everyone. Mr. Mayor, members of the board, thanks again for having me back. As you all know, my name is Kenyon Burnham. I'm with KDM Development, Cobblestone, and the Foxwood Group. My address is 8120 Bentwood Place, which is in Raleigh, NC 27615. Michael did a really fantastic job laying out the highlights of the project, and it's going to be a pretty tough act for me to follow here. But just to give you guys a quick recap of what we're talking about here. Obviously, I'm going to go ahead and just hold this up while I'm talking about it. So we really, and you've heard me say all this before, but I just want to reiterate, the primary focus of this project was on the walkability, the sense of place, creating a community center and a gathering place, and really highlighting the mixed-use aspects of this project. I think that the guys at Klein and the guys at B&K have done a fantastic job, thank you, Charles, have done a fantastic job of really hammering home those primary points we wanted them to focus on, and I think that shows both in the site plan that you're all well familiar with and the architectural renderings that they put together. Just to recap and elaborate a little bit on what Michael had mentioned earlier, so this project will feature 40,900 square feet of retail, 18,200 square feet of municipal space, 3,800 square feet of flex space, 178 to 182 multifamily units, 12 townhomes, and 510 parking spaces, in addition to a couple of overflow lots that we've been discussing with Parks and Rec Director J.G. Ferguson and members of the board. It's just something I wanted to kind of introduce today. This is going to be kind of hard to see, so I'll walk it around after I'm done talking here. But one of the things that we identified down the road from here at Main Street Park was this says 40 spaces on here. It's actually 54 spaces. A 54-space lot that's about a few hundred feet down the road and plugs into Main Street Park.
Can you hold it up a little higher?
Yeah, sorry about that.
And make sure you're talking to the mic.
Sorry, yeah. A little nervous. A 54 space parking lot, gravel lot right down the road from Cobblestone along Main Street. And we anticipate that'll help quite substantially with the overflow needs during any town events or go right ahead, yeah. So Charles is going to go ahead and walk around, but it'll help quite substantially with any overflow needs during town hosted events. Obviously, any Cobblestone based events we can't use it being a public parking lot, but during town hosted events that'll provide about 54 spaces of overflow lots right down the road from us. In addition to that, what Charles is also pointing out is another 48 unit parking lot that we've been talking about designing with J.G. Ferguson, and have really only shown very preliminary plans to him as part of that process. So, we're showing it to you guys today as really more of a concept approach to that parking problem that's been raised a couple of times. That additional 100 some odd spaces will definitely help substantially during town events and during Cobblestone hosted events.
Overflow parking. Is that land you own?
No, so that I was just about to get into that. So there's a dirt lot on site right now that many people use to park in for access to Main Street Park. If you're aware of the piece it's the big dirt piece right next to that red fence or right along the boundary of the property. If you head over there, and if you're heading into Main Street Park, a lot of people park there to walk on it. So
Who owns that?
We do.
You guys do, yes. It's part of the subject property. The overflow lot that I'm talking about, though, is actually on the Main Street Park land. So it's something that we wanted to talk to you guys and kind of proceed and I guess come to higher levels of design and get more input from y'all on. And it's something that we've been talking to JG about. But the idea being that
Let me make sure, because I think I heard Kelly was telling me about this a few days ago.
Yeah.
I think what I'm hearing, just make it plain for the board, is when we get to the parking, which we're not talking about tonight. I mean, that's part of,
Yeah, oh yeah.
make final decisions on. We don't even know how many we have to have yet. But I think what he's saying is we have a dirt overflow parking now for the park that's used at time. So I think he's saying, and I want to make sure I hear what you're saying is
Yeah.
that you would put in at your cost a parking spot for overflow in the park
Yes,
that
Mr.
can
Mayor.
be used for both.
Correct. Yeah, it would be a co-use.
If needed.
Very well
Is that
put. Yeah, it'd be a 48 space co-use lot that we're offering to build and pave at our expense in exchange
It'd be on
for.
our property, but you'll bill and.
Correct. Yeah, very correct.
And
yeah.
pave it.
And pave it. Oh yes, to current town standards.
All right,
Yes.
so you're still using on the site plan Raleigh standards, not Rolesville standards.
We are using the updated UDO standards and the updated downtown overlay standards that Kimley Horn has developed independently, and I'll maybe let the engineers and the town staff maybe speak a bit more specifically to that.
Next Tuesday, you have a work session on the proposed town center mixed-use text amendment, in which you will discuss what is being proposed by the consultant in further detail and decide if you are comfortable with that or not. So he is reflecting what he is desired for this, and the consultant will come and tell you what they're proposing for the text amendment, and then you'll have to kind of decide where you are on that issue.
Okay.
You understand, Mr. Wilson? Is that clear?
I understand it. I'm not sure I like it.
Well, I understand. That's
We don't know what the like is.
Yeah.
that's right.
Exactly.
That's outstanding.
And to be clear, that's why we put in the new agreement that you're considering tonight, parking would be part of the site plan approval process, because we don't know exactly what the text amendment's going to be that will be used for this.
Okay.
So Kenyon described on that how many spots. That does not meet our current code, and we don't know if that meets the new code, text amendment, when you get done with it.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, sorry.
Jack, any more questions on that?
No.
I want to make
Okay,
sure,
right
yeah,
now.
I know it's a hot button
Yeah,
topic.
I
wanna make
think
sure
everybody knows parking is a thing that we got to address, you
Sure,
know,
absolutely.
time comes, once we know more about it.
And there's also an issue, I don't know whether to bring it up now or later, but with Privet Insurance Company.
Yeah,
And as of this morning, you had not reached an agreement with him on that 14-foot alleyway.
we have not, no. We have not, we've reached an agreement in principle for the parking component of it, the license of use for the parking spaces out there, but not for the 14-foot easement or area of use. If you'd like me to get into that a bit more detail, that's fine, or if you prefer I wait till later to.
We're going to have to get into it.
Oh, yeah, yeah, no,
Because Privet Insurance Company has been there since 1962. They were there first.
Oh, yeah, no, I understand that.
And they've got to be treated.
Oh, yeah, no, and I agree, and so we have offered them that 14-foot area of use is so what they'd like is for the land to be deeded to them directly, and what we've offered in counter is and we call it an area of use, a license of use. So it would be perpetual license at no cost to them to use that 14-foot area for access, outdoor dining, maintenance purposes. I mean, the list goes on. So that's how we're addressing that 14-foot access easement he's looking for. However, we are asking for, turn this back around real quick. Thank you, Charles. The one thing we are asking for in return is we are asking for an in-kind use along the back half of his property, running along the side of our building for the same purposes. We'd like to be able to access the side of our building for maintenance reasons and primarily maintenance reasons.
Mr. Privet, from what I understand, does not want that.
Right, yeah, he would prefer that we deed him the land to his ownership and does not want to grant us the area of use in the back of his property.
As well as, and I read that agreement, that you also want him to pay for maintenance and upkeep.
We've dropped that.
His prorated share.
So we've dropped that from the agreement. Yeah, we had a phone call with him yesterday or maybe the day before. I can't remember exactly when. But I had a brief phone call with him, and or I guess left a voicemail actually, and offered to drop that component from the agreement. It's kind of a holdover from a boilerplate access area of use agreement, so that's been removed from the request on our end. We just want our 14-foot area of use in the back to access the side of our building for maintenance purposes as well.
That seems reasonable.
I have a question.
Again, it's not an easement we're asking for. It's this should specify, it's an area of use license. So we would grant him a perpetual license to use the area he's asking for along the side of his building there, and we are asking for the same perpetual license to use the side of the area along the side of our building for maintenance and access reasons and all the rest of it. The problem with granting it as a permanent easement in there, unfortunately, is that our water and sewer lines run right along the side of his building. So granting that to him as a deed and owning that would create some problems for us in maintaining those water and sewer lines should they need to be repaired, et cetera, et cetera. There's also a planned sidewalk along there, so it could impact the walkability of the project. There's a litany of reasons as to why deeding it doesn't really work relative to the project we're doing out here, and rather the perpetual license of use where we can both use the area freely is a more advantageous approach, I think, for both parties.
Okay.
I have a quick question. Did we ever decide on the municipal piece of this project?
No.
We did not, right?
So, say that again?
I said we never agreed on the municipal piece of the project.
Well,
Right.
in the agreement, it calls out for a community recreation center.
Talking about the
But
design.
it was three
we
ways
did
we
that
could, it
one.
was 2 or 3 ways we could do that.
That's right. Right. It talks about, we still have the opportunity to decide if we want to do a lease purchase or build it on our own. But that is called out, and that is identified in the site plan as that facility there.
Okay, right. So I'm just a little confused on what the next steps would be if we hadn't made a decision yet. That make sense?
It gives the option and agreement, and then we will go on our next, if you agree to that, we will start an effort soon on deciding which is the best preference for us.
We ain't that far yet.
Yeah, you still have both options though, up until we decide.
And if I understand, it's our option.
That's right.
If we want to buy it and build ourselves or, you know,
Right.
lease it out, it's our option.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's something we would have to decide on.
Okay.
And just 2 other quick points and relative to the letter I had written, and just something else as well. So we've also, in addition, we've progressed further along with the Duke undergrounding plans and have kind of moved to a slightly higher stage of design, the design process. I'll let the specifics of that are not my area of expertise. We've brought the engineer and Charles along to answer those a bit more in specifics. If you'd like to hear that, then also the non-disclosure agreement has been signed, and the pro formas, I believe, have been sent along to the consulting firm. Yes, they have. Yes, so the pro formas that we are basing this deal on have been sent along to an independent consulting firm that has signed a non-disclosure agreement. And let me real quick. This is kind of a very simplified version. We had Duke kind of scale it back a little bit just to show us the areas that are being undergrounded, and I'll walk this around to you all real quick, just so you can get an idea of what we're talking about here. Just a simple undergrounding right along this red line here, right along the front of the property, all along the front of the
That's Main Street.
property. I'm wearing my mask on, too.
That's Main Street, Ken?
Oh, yeah, Main Street and a little bit of.
And a little bit of yellow, okay.
All righty. Thank you.
And Keenan, that would be all utilities, right? All, well, there's cable, telephone, power.
Natural
okay.
gas. Natural gas.
Natural gas is underground anyway, I guess.
It's going to be power, and at this point, 2 or 3 communications cables that are hanging on the existing poles that are there now. They will all go into a conduit below ground in what's called a joint trench. We'll actually bury the conduit, and the various different companies will come in and actually run the cables through the conduit.
That covers the most hot button topics. You know, I'm here for additional questions if you guys have any, or if you'd like to proceed along, that's fine as well.
Yeah, what questions did the board, did you get yours answered, Jackie, or you
I'm
still
okay right now.
contemplating on some more questions?
Yeah, I'll wait to the repurchase agreement when we
Okay.
talked about that. I've got questions about that.
What about you others? April got a question?
April, you okay? Any questions? Yes, she's good.
Okay. Any questions from the other board members? Thank you, Keenan.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate that.
Much appreciated.
Anyone else wanted to speak or in an introduction, or was that it? That it?
I think that's it from our end. Yeah, thank you.
Is that it, Michael? All right. Any questions from the staff before I open the public hearing? Because I'm going to open them pretty rapidly here. Okay. The first one is public hearing. The town intends to designate approximately 11 acres of land currently owned by the town being held for economic development purposes pursuant to NCGS 158-7.1B. I open the public hearing. I do not have anybody signed up to speak on item A1. Robin, do you have anybody to speak on that? Somebody next door can verify. Can you verify that, Michael? Make sure nobody wants to speak on this one.
Have people to speak on the Cobblestone development in general, so I think
Yeah,
there was just.
that's C. I think I got C.
Want to wait, have them wait. for
Yeah,
C?
but make sure no one wants to speak on this one.
So all of the comments that we received are for C.
We're gonna do that third one too. Yeah, thanks for reminding that. All right. Yeah, I think we'll move on with this public hearing. We'll have some more. Is any statement the board wants to make before I close this one? I will make a statement, Ben. I was here most of the time that we purchased this land, and you know, maybe some citizens wondering, you know, why we selling it after we purchased it and that type of thing. So I will kind of say, you know, the town started purchasing this land before I actually came on the board 20 years ago, almost 20 years ago, and I would describe it the whole time. It's been two purposes behind it. One was we needed land for municipal buildings, and you know, that was available when we started buying that for municipal buildings. The second purpose, which I think, you know, we may not be aware as much as some of the original board members was back then, is we wanted to put the municipal buildings down there to sort of be a seed for economic development down there, because it was kind of, nothing was happening, and we thought that we would, if we build our buildings, the other folks would come. So, you know, it was originally for economic purpose, you know, a seed for building down there. So I think this does fit in line, kind of what you know, we've always wanted to do. Now, you know, we need more municipal land. Naturally, we have money to buy that, and I think where that's located is well suited for a more economic purpose development, like commercial, whatever. So I just thought I would say that, and you know, some of the new people that's, you know, new to town and kind of wondering what's going on there is really, it was two purposes. One, you know, we needed to put some buildings somewhere, but also second, we wanted to start something downtown to kind of get it going in that older section of town. And this would definitely start something down there. So it will serve that purpose. So with that, I'll close the public hearing and open the second public hearing. This one is the town intends to convey a fee simple interest in the property which is currently owned by the town to Cobblestone Crossing LLC Cobblestone for an economic development project pursuant to NCGS 158-7.1D. And I will open the public hearing. Same as the first one, I do not have anyone signed up to speak on this particular one. Robin, I don't think you've had anybody come in since then. We good, Michael? No one want to speak on this one? Is it April? She has any comment?
Well, I want to comment only because you hit the gavel too quick on my.
She's good. All right.
I wanted to comment on your last comment.
Okay.
About what the property was designated for 20 years ago. I'm glad you gave that history.
Uh-huh.
Don't all know that history. So it's just interesting to see this come full circle. It must be interesting for you to see, but how it's being used for, or being proposed to be used for both commercial and possibly some municipal. So
Right.
good to see that. I
Right.
know that the town is start, and this could be the start of that. So thank you for that history lesson.
Okay. Thank you, Sheila. Anybody else got anything? All right. Well, I'm going to close the public hearing. And the third public hearing is the town proposes to enter into an economic development agreement in which the town will partner with Cobblestone to build a town center project pursuant to NCGS 158-7.1H. And I will open the public hearing. And with this one, I don't have anybody signed up to speak in support of. Is it anybody here that want to speak in support of?
Or against, and would just like to speak and say what they want to say.
Bring them in.
That's interesting.
Hey, Teresa, if you would, state your name and address for the record.
Okay.
Recognize you. That's gonna have no idea.
I'm Teresa Privet Mobley. My address is 1207 Heritage Links Drive, Wake Forest, NC 27587. I am here. I am co-owner of Privet Properties and Privet Insurance, along with my brother Rodney Privet. And just have some comments on the project. And just for the record, I wanted to say that when we signed in, we had to sign in as either for or against the project. And I'm not against the project. I didn't really know which way to sign in. So we put against, but that's not, I'm not really totally against it. It's just, there's some issues that need to be addressed, and that's why we're here. So I wrote everything down that I wanted to say, so. And also, I have a map of, I don't know if anybody, this kind of references what we're talking about. I don't know if anybody wants to see this or not, but anyway.
I want to see it.
Okay. Got some there. I kind of just highlighted. But anyway, our family has operated our business in this location since 1962. Purchased the buildings in 1981 from Mr. Neil Rogers. In doing so, our parents agreed to give up the 14-foot alleyway to accommodate the town with access to the alleyway and also allow the owner access to the tower. We are asking for this 14-foot existing access since we are losing our access to the back of our buildings. This 14 feet will allow us to get to the back of our buildings for service and maintenance. It will also allow our tenants to be able to continue to use their side entrance to the building. This entrance is what all the tenants and the majority of their clients use to get into the property. The 14 feet will allow us to safely maintain the entryway as well as provide easy access to their building and service vehicle use. And for the record, our tenants are Privet Insurance, Vicky's Hair Shop, Unity 3 Builders, A1 Financial Services, and Rolesville Buzz Media and Marketing. Cobblestone is asking for 14 feet in the back of our property if they agree to the existing 14-foot alleyway access for us. In theory, this may sound like a reasonable request, but in reality, for us, it is not. This will reduce our small footprint dramatically. It will restrict any future plan that we or our tenants may have for outside expansion, and we cannot agree to this as we cannot afford to diminish our property and our property use value. We have, however, agreed to a lower number of parking spaces. We're only going to get 10 spaces. We have five tenants, and that's 2 spaces per tenant. And keep in mind that Cobblestone will not agree to assigned spaces for our building. These spaces are spaces within their entire parking area, along with their apartment complex tenants and retail tenants. This parking scenario is questionable in light of the fact that we're losing all of our own parking in both the front and back of our property, which is huge. We are asking for the town's support of our request for the 14 feet existing access to the side of our building. This is a very reasonable request. As longtime business owners and residents here, we know that Rolesville's growth is just beginning and that our downtown area's revitalization is a step in the right direction. Our building is one of the oldest. We feel it adds historical character to the downtown. We would like to work with the town and the developer with the revitalization efforts of the Young and Main intersection, and since we sit right in the middle of it, we hope the town will consider our request as well. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Teresa. Appreciate that. And I think Rodney Privet signed up to speak also. Rodney, if you would, state your name and address and for the record.
Okay. Rodney Privet. Address is 12,225 Lewisburg Road, Wake Forest, NC. And I just want to say to Teresa, hey, did a good job with that. I just want to kind of hit a few hot spots along with what she said there. And first of all, say it was confusing when we signed in. There's a 4 against. I just want to go on the record. We're not against Cobblestone Village. The very first layout that we saw when they came to us a year and a half ago with the big belt clock tower and all that stuff up front, man, it was beautiful. We were excited about it, and so we're not against that. So, and I want to thank the town staff and the town commissioners here for working with us and requiring Cobblestone to work with us about our parking situation, our access situation. I mean, you didn't have to do that, but we have been there forever. And as Teresa says, our tenants that we've got there over the years, we've had several people wanting to rent our spaces, but we have been limited on parking. As y'all know, I know you're tired of hearing it, but parking is the problem. So we always had to rent to someone that had a minimum amount of parking. The beauty shop, they're in and out. There's not a whole lot of cars, at one time. The construction company that's rented there, it's a one-person operation. They were asked one time if they could come park the trucks up there. I said, no, we don't have the parking. And then the tax lady, she has an appointment one at a time, so that helps. That's why we've been able to get by with what parking we've got there now. And thank the town for fixing that other parking lot back there where we call it where the hot dog man is, okay, behind the berm. Some days, and it's not only us, not Privet Insurance Agency customers. You look up there and it's 8 or 10 cars up. I've taken pictures before and sent it to the town manager. So it's a lot of cars up there that's not coming to see Privet Insurance Agency. So parking is a problem. But anyway, getting down to the facts here, the 14 feet on the south west side of the building that we talked about, that's on the southwest side of 102 and 104 South Main. The property line over the years, back years ago, I'll tell you a little bit about the history. Neil Rogers owned all that property up there, and he owned where the fire department building was, the 2-story cinder block building the town owns there now. It eventually became the EMS building. That was built in 1958, and it was built right on the line. If you look at that building, it's just right on the line. The right-hand side of that building, between them and us in at the alley there, was on the property that we owned, the 102, 104 property. So when we got it in early 80s, my parents got there. Like I said, we've been there since 1962 as a family. But in the early 80s, when we got it from Mr. Rogers, about the same time, the communication tower came on board. The communication tower was behind back there. Everybody should be aware of. So it's, hey, Mr. Rogers, you got that. He was landlocked and couldn't go out toward West Young Street. Howard Brown owned some land there. Central Carolina Bank owned land, and the United States Post Office owned land. You had the bank, the post office, and Howard Brown's place. He couldn't get out to West Young, so what we did, we went over there next to the rescue building and measured it. Came over 14 feet. That was back in the 80s. I can't remember where the 14-foot thing came from. We came back over 14 feet, and that's where we drew the line, left that in his name so that he'd have access to that tower back there. If you look at the map, I think she might have handed one out, and I've got some more copies. If you look at the map, it was a 14-foot strip beside us. When it got down to the town's water tower property, which a lot of y'all in here don't even remember the water tower. It's a 50 by 50 space there with a water tower. Commissioner, you remember the water tower. But when it got to there, it turned to the right a little bit and then went down in front of Spence Jones's building, which the building the town owns now. That was Spence's granddaddy's building. Went down in front of that building, and then when it did, it opened back up to the driveway that goes to the tower. He kept that just so he'd have access to the road for the tower people. That's what was used, in and out of there, in and out. That is not hadn't been a designated street in there, but I tell you what, it had wore it out in there in the past, years past, and still do. When the police station was there, policemen came in and parked, went in off of South Main, came out on West Young. People going to the post office, they came in there, went out on West Young. People going to Central Carolina Bank drive-through, that's the way they went. So the traffic's not as heavy then as it used to be, but it's still pretty heavy. So, that's a little bit of the history of it, y'all. So just want to kind of let you know about that communication tower was why that was done that way. Since then, of course, we found out, and I think Cobblestone found out kind of late, because we've seen 3 different proposals from Cobblestone. The first one I really liked, and the second one, and that on the third one. But I think they found out that the tower's easement is off of West Young Street, which kind of threw a kink in their situation as far as having to move their buildings around. So that's don't have anything to do with the tower anymore. So what we're asking for is to look at that and run down beside our building there, get that. We'd like to see us get that 14-foot back, and what that does is allows our customers and our tenants to really enter the building from that side. If you measure over from the building, you're not talking about but 2 or 3 feet there, and then you got your 14 feet over there, which what they could be able to use, go in and out, and it would allow us space to go back to the back of the building and service the building if we need to. Sure, it cannot be a driveway. We know the state wouldn't allow that, but it would give us access to the back of our building. It won't hurt their situation. I know Kenya's dad even said they'd move their building over about 2 feet and leave that there. Water and sewer. I will tell you this: I think Kenya mentioned a while ago about that, but the water and sewer, which used to be town, now it's the city of Raleigh. The main sewer line runs through there, and the water line. So you can't build on it. We can't build on it. They can't build on it. But it would allow us to have access to walk on it, outside seating, outside dining, whatever in the future. Who knows in the future? But we have us enough space between the two of us to be able to get in and out and use it. So like I say, we're asking for that.
Rodney?
Yes.
You're saying in addition to the 14 feet here that is highlighted, you want 14 feet at the back of the building where you can come in?
No, just the 14 feet through the alley right there.
Okay, that's all you're asking.
That's all we're asking for,
That's
the
all
14 feet from the alley. And then the other thing we're asking for, which we've agreed on, I know that agreement that we got last Thursday from them, it was a typo. We've talked about it was a typo. They said 8 parking spaces. It's a minimum of 10 in the agreement out there. So really where will the 10 be?
It'll
be on their property, somewhere on their parking space property, which would be on, I think he's got a drawing of it over there, somewhere over there. We asked for designated, of course, didn't do that, so we did settle for, and we really asked for 12 to 15, we need 12 to 15 spaces. But I will tell you, if the town and Cobblestone works together on this other project, I don't even bring up something else, but the project for Main Street project from Burlington Mill Road to the intersection, it's a little unclear on how many spaces we're going to have on that. Now, I would suggest y'all really work together on that, because we've seen some diagonal parking, we've seen some parallel parking. No, we really hadn't seen anything final on that. So that would help every business in town, our side of the street and the other side of the street. So as you know, parking is a problem. But really, we were looking for that 14-foot right there, and then the 10 spaces on their property. That's it. That's the 2 things we're asking for. Not to turn around and give up 14 feet to them on the back of our building. No, I mean, we're looking at less than 2/10 of an acre for us to deal with. They're dealing with 11 acres. We can't give up any more land up there. I mean, we're going to try to hold on to what we got. So if we had that narrow strip down through there, it would accommodate our employees of the businesses as well as us, and service the back of that building. So that's basically the main thing we wanted to say tonight. And again, I appreciate y'all taking a look at that. And I would invite anybody who could to come up there and see it. That map is kind of misleading. Well, I say misleading, might be hard to understand. But if you come up on the property and walk out there, which we did the other week, Kenyon and his dad came out, we looked at it, and first thing his dad said, hey, we can move that building over 2 foot, work with this. If you come up there, actually look at you, see what I'm talking about. The 14 feet, the sewer and water run right down it, so nobody can do anything in it with it anyway. So, but that would give us access. You could, people have been driving on it, walking on it all these years. We'll continue doing that. So,
I think
Who owns-
Michelle had a question.
I do. Okay, so I'm a little confused about the building that they're talking about constructing. Is it behind the building? Behind your building?
but they're gonna have one behind our building
Something
and
about a
beside our
building
building.
back there. Was that always on the map? Or was this something different that came up after the fact?
Talking about right along the southern side of the building right here.
Okay,
This is the building that would be right along.
Rodney, anything else?
all
Is
right,
that,
so
Rodney,
there's
did
no
you
line,
cover
there's nothing being
everything?
discussed about the back of the building per se.
Yeah, that's the two items that we're really concerned about is the 14 feet there, and the 14 feet would stop back behind the building, kind of before you get to where the old water tower used to be, right there. And I don't think the 14 feet would hold up any construction that a developer would want to do. I wouldn't think so. And I think some confusion on that is, I think Cobblestone thought maybe the 14-foot would be put in the
Yeah, but that's the building.
joint use and license agreement. We were saying no, 14-foot would be deeded back to us or whatever there for, like it was done in the old days, you might say, to allow us to be able to get in and out. The joint use and license agreement would be in reference to the 10 parking spaces on their property. So two different things right there.
Okay.
So who owns the property now? Thank you, Rodney, for that
We do.
history.
We do.
Town
Town.
owns it.
The town owns it. That's why I want to talk to the town. The town, y'all own it. The town owns it right there.
Yep.
It's that alley right through there, and it's water and sewer.
doesn't- he doesn't
I
want
got
to
the
get
city of
this
Raleigh guy out there. He was out there marking for the new communication to mark it well up there. He's marked it up the alley where the sewer is and where the water is. And it's right on this property. They can't build on it. I can't build on it. Nobody can build on it. So unless they want to pay for having it moved, and I don't think you do. I don't think they want to pay to have the sewer moved.
Okay.
That sewer and water services our buildings up there, and we probably service some of their stuff.
All right, Keenan, I think we're going to wrap it up.
I'm still a little confused, I gotta tell you.
All right, we'll get to that one. I think we got to do a site plan at some point in time. So let's finish the public hearing. And
Okay, I appreciate y'all time. Now, I'm serious about it. I'll invite any of y'all to come up there and look so you can see what I'm talking about. It's hard to show on the map. It's hard for Kenyon to show, hard for us to show. But come up there and look at it. It's pretty cut and dry once you come up and look. So
All right.
I got the maps and all. You can have all this stuff you want, but it's if you come up there and put your eye on it, you'll better understand it. So that's what we're asking for. And again, we're not against the Cobblestone project. It's going to look, the town, it's going to change the town. It'd be wonderful, once it gets done. It's going to be aggravating during the construction, I'm sure, for several years for everybody. But keep in mind the parking situation, that access to the back of our buildings, all we're asking for. And hey, go for it. Or if they change their mind and want to buy us out, they can do that too, and start over like they did the first time, the first offer they had. Come and get it. So, but that's basically what we're after. We're worried about the parking and our customers and the future.
Well, thank you, Rodney. Appreciate
Thank y'all for your time.
Appreciate you coming out.
Yes, sir.
And I think Robin, during this pandemic, our process has been that we've requested for people to do a lot of writing and stuff online, and I think we do have a few of those. So, Robin, would you mind reading those out, please?
Is this reading thing only going to be happening during the COVID? Once this is over, there's no more of this?
And again, these are the public comments that were received online. First comment from Olena Pates, 1029 Prairie Smoke Street, Wake Forest, North Carolina. Can't wait for this beautiful downtown to be built. I was very impressed with how historic relevance was being incorporated into this development. Michael Ulrich, 3015 Freeman Farm Way, Rolesville, North Carolina. Looking forward to this development, perfect for Rolesville. As a realtor, family man, and community member, our family is excited to have small shops and some nice places to eat in our immediate community. The aesthetics are perfect for a quaint hometown vibe. Currently, living in Rolesville is really like living in Wake Forest. I choose to live in Rolesville because it's more personal and quaint than Wake Forest. Building Cobblestone Crossing is only a positive for Rolesville community. Sean Whiteside, 231 Northwick Road, Rolesville, North Carolina. My wife and I are very excited about the corner of Main and West Young development, Cobblestone Crossing. We've been waiting for something like this for years. It will be nice to be able to walk to the area for dining and entertainment. We frequent the developer's Lafayette Village often and look forward to having something very similar here in Rolesville. I believe this is a big step to something great for the town of Rolesville economically and socially. Kathy Capehutz, 457 Atkins Ridge Road, Rolesville, North Carolina. We absolutely need something of this magnitude to enhance our town. It would bring more jobs and revenue. We would have a local place to socialize that feels safe. It would put Rolesville on the map. Jennifer Burnett, 2315 Mitchell Garden Drive, Rolesville, North Carolina. As a resident and business owner in Rolesville, the prospect of the proposed Cobblestone project is very exciting. Our town needs commercial rentals for shopping and dining. It is an area we are seriously lacking. In another couple of years, I will need to relocate my business, and there is no place in Rolesville for me to look into. Our town is growing, and we need to meet the needs of these new households. Why should we be sending all of those tax dollars to Wake Forest or Raleigh? I am confident that the plans and designs set forth with this project will do increase our home values and set Rolesville apart as a destination for others to come and enjoy. It would be irresponsible and a complete waste to use the proposed land for government buildings or a generic business complex. We have beautiful trails and parks, but nowhere to join up with friends and enjoy the surroundings of Rolesville. Please pass this project through ASAP. The revenues generated from sales and business taxes would be a welcomed addition to continue to grow our town in a thoughtful and meaningful way. Frank Eagles, 205 South Main Street, Rolesville, North Carolina. Cobblestone Crossing is one of the most important items in a long time to come before the Rolesville Town Board. This development has been needed for a long time. This will move Rolesville out of its dependence on neighboring towns for the necessary amenities our citizens want and need. I hear constantly that a number of our businesses are waiting for this development to move to a great exposure location. They also indicate that, if not developed in the near future, they will leave and go to Wake Forest. At the large introduction meeting, there was outstanding verbal approval by the attending citizens. As you all know, and I know as former mayor, there always are naysayers, people who do not want Rolesville to grow. Some even want it to be as it was in the 70s and 80s. This is impossible. Please speed the approval of the development agreement. It is vital to the overall health of Rolesville as a town in Wake County. Justin Thigpen, 1119 Virginia Water Drive, Rolesville, North Carolina. You all as a board have done a terrific job so far bringing our town along through its beginning stages of inevitable growth. We now have a great community with nice neighborhoods, a diverse population, and great parks and rec programs. All we are missing to begin is some sort of commercial center or downtown to build upon. As a small town, our downtown could look similar to Wake Forest or Apex, with small, independent businesses, including sit-down restaurants, bars, and retail, in addition to small office. Our residents are so hungry and eager for dining and retail options that I truly believe this is our #1 priority and need. We have the opportunity to define how ours could look now with the Cobblestone Corner project, which is a top-tier development from a top-tier developer. This is a once-in-a-town's lifetime opportunity, and I don't think we will find a better developer or development for Rolesville for this task. Thank you for your service to our town. Final comment, Jessica Falone, 456 Atkins Ridge Road, Rolesville, North Carolina. The addition of Cobblestone Crossing would be an incredible asset to our small growing town. It would give residents options to walk or bike to local restaurants and shopping while also optimizing beautiful downtown space for more small offices or apartment living. Our family very much hopes to be able to enjoy a space like this for many years to come in our sweet town.
Okay, thank you, Robin. Before I move to anybody speaking against, I will give Cobblestone one last 3 minutes, if anything you want to close us out with before we move to the next part.
Absolutely. And thank you again to everybody that left the kind words online and all of that. I certainly appreciate the support, and we are seriously excited about this on our end as well, believe me. I just wanted to circle back real quick to obviously that more hot button topic, the privet parking and access agreement arrangement here. So one of the things you heard him say was that he's really just looking for a way to get to the back of his building, and that is in in kind what we have accomplished here with what we've designed for him, this perpetual license of use and access. It's not a full easement. We would retain ownership of the property, but I think that's a very fair way of addressing this, considering the site plan constraints we have, the topography of the land, and the somewhat unusual shape of it, as you all know. We're really trying to build the best possible product we can out there, and I feel like we can't necessarily accomplish that if we entirely give up that alleyway to be deeded over to him for ownership. What we have done is effectively the exact same thing, simply through by allowing him an access area of use. It'll allow both of us to use that 14-foot area perpetually and without any kind of impediment to one another. We are asking for the same thing at the back of his property, to be able to access the side of our building for maintenance purposes. He will still retain ownership of it, and we will just be allowed to use it to get in there to maintain our building. I think it's a very fair offer we made him here. I don't know. There's a whole lot of room for us to move on that one. The parking spaces, it seems like we've come to an agreement on, which I think is fantastic. And I should add that Mr. Privet and Ms. Teresa Mobley have been really fantastic to deal with throughout this whole process. They've been very responsive and really great people and really phenomenal representatives of the town, truly. And I really believe this really more comes down to a simple case of a misunderstanding between the two parties. We are accomplishing exactly what he's looking for, and are really just looking for an in-kind concession on our end to be able to access and maintain the side of our building for the exact same reasons he's looking for on his end. So, I think in conclusion, I think we've come up with a fair solution to it. I really hope that, we can work something out with him moving forward, and I hope the board is understanding of our, the immense amount of work that has gone into this, and our efforts in trying to come to an agreement with him. So thank you again, and
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate that, Ken. Okay, since we have heard from Rodney and Teresa, I don't have anybody else signed up to speak against. Robin, is it any other speakers that you know of? Michael, anybody in the other room? If not, I will close unless y'all have a question for somebody. But we can do that. We can do that anyway. But all right, I will close the public hearing, and I guess before we move on to deciding on the vote, maybe Kelly, you can enlighten us in two things. I think Commissioner Wilson brought up about the parking, and I think maybe enlighten us, when do we need to when will we make that decision, and what decisions we make tonight hinge on parking. And the second question I think is brought up by the two speakers has to do with the agreement between the two private parties. What was that requirement? Was that required at some phase other than night, or when is we requiring that to take place?
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Board, just in response to that, if you would refer to the development agreement in Section 2. Now, this is a section that has been a little bit fluid as you reviewed it the last 2 to 3 months, because in here we have kind of had items that were needed to be completed that we felt in the agreement draft, and as they were completed, they moved up to Section 1 and were identified as completed. But if they are still in here, that they are identified as not yet completed. And so Section 2 reads, Cobblestone will also provide the town with the following additional information by the time it submits the first phase design to the town 30 days after this agreement is effective. And that ties to a timeline later in the agreement. I believe it is Section 5, which outlines what they will provide to the town to start the development review process. So at that time, it says additional information, the Cobblestone must provide the following additional information to the town no later than when it submits the first phase design to the town 30 days after this agreement is effective. Bullet point 1, a copy of any signed agreement with the owners of Privet Insurance Building concerning the redevelopment of the Privet Insurance Building and or any parking or access agreements that may be required. And the second bullet reads, parking plans for weekday, weekend, and event parking that is consistent with town parking standards. So let me go back to each bullet. The first bullet has been a bullet that has been in this draft agreement for the better part of the drafting of the agreement. As town staff recognized that parking was probably of a concern once it was confirmed that the Privet building was going to stay at the location. So we placed it in there, and it has stayed in that, generally in that format, through the drafting and negotiating of this agreement. The second bullet has always been also kind of talked about based upon conversations with the board we've had as we looked at a couple iterations of the site plan. There's always been a question about parking, and we recognize that that was an important item. We originally had that as a place that had to be completed tonight, and then as we thought through it, that didn't make any sense. Because when we again, and I alluded to it earlier, the schedule of what's going to happen, is in order for this project to occur in the format as presented tonight, in general format as presented tonight, there is a text amendment needed for the mixed-use development, which we are going to generate and talk about next week and review with you. And the concept there is that if you're okay with that, you may modify it and such, but ultimately it would be a new downtown or town center mixed-use district that would be included in the new UDO. And it would essentially be different than the existing overlay district that is on this property. So that must happen. The text must happen. Second part of this is if the text amendment is approved, then there is also a need for a rezoning of the parcel to that downtown center, or that town center zone. And then the third layer on that is ultimately a site plan that will go through a review and adoption. So the concept is, in this, is that recognizing that the parking is still a little bit fluid, that we could see where the text amendment is, and in 30 days, we anticipate they'll probably submit something in alignment with what you hear and see next week. If you don't adopt that text amendment, or if you make modifications to the parking, they may need to make modifications to their existing concept to fit. But what we didn't want to do tonight is hold this agreement up for bullet 2. Now, bullet 1 is your consideration. We still think there's room, maybe, not certain based upon what I heard tonight, and you have to judge that, for an opportunity for both parties to come to agreement on the bullet 1. But there is an opportunity to build more time for that based upon where this is placed in the agreement. So that's the kind of the rationale and history behind those 2 points.
So the considerations are kind of built in the agreement here.
Yeah, I want to leave both bullets in there.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we're not recommending changing it.
Okay.
by any means, no.
Okay. Then I'm okay.
And I just need to well, I probably don't, then, never mind. I was gonna understand perpetuity, sounds like it.
My question is, when will, it says 30 days after agreement is effective. When is that? When is it effective? Is that when we all sign it or something, or what?
I believe is that tonight? If we
Vote to approve it, right?
I think it's based upon approval date.
Yes.
right? It would be based upon the approval date, which could be as early as tonight.
It would be at the time of your selecting, based upon the motion that might be made tonight or when the vote is called at the choice of the board.
The clock starts tonight then.
And
The clock could start tonight.
So my question with bullet point 1 is, what if there's not an agreement between the two parties?
The way the agreement is currently written, it does not require that an agreement be reached. It only requires that if one is reached, it be provided to the town.
But mechanically, the site plan must reflect some of those elements because of the setback issues that were addressed tonight. So there are some planning technicalities that need to be addressed, that need to be in this agreement. So if they're not addressed in this agreement, more likely that building that you saw can't be built, potentially. Or I don't know, but that's gonna be part of the review process. Is that understandable?
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah, same with the parking. I mean, before we can approve the site plan, the parking, we have to, have to agree to that, right?
So we could approve this, but if the parking is not what we want, or if Privet is not dealt with fairly, in our humble opinions, we don't have to approve the site plan.
I think one of those is correct.
Am I stating that correctly?
look at that.
One of them's correct.
Commissioner Vilga may be on top of this. The site plan would be approved as part of a quasi-judicial process.
Right.
So it is difficult to determine what facts would allow you to deny a site plan that met all of our standards, but you just didn't like how they did it.
I have a problem with that because, and forgive me, but Privet was here first. Okay? And I don't think they should be penalized, for construction by losing parking. Okay? And losing access to their building.
I wrote down, and maybe I'm wrong, but I wrote down the 14-foot access that Rodney described and Kenyon described. It said land, this is 14 feet, land that could not be developed, but the permitted use and access would be in perpetuity. And help me, attorney, perpetuity means what?
Forever.
Forever.
Yeah.
So what are they losing when you say?
Well, right now they're using it, but now other people are going to get to use it too.
Other
Okay,
people
so
use
that
it
so
now? I
so
know
they
I
can so they can lose use of it. I mean, if you've got 10 employees there, you've got 10 employees. Where the customers are going to be, and let's say that some of Cobblestone is using part of that parking during the daytime hours, that the people of Privet's building are using it, that they are losing parking space.
So I was talking about the access. You're talking about the parking.
I'm talking about the parking.
Aren't those two different things? Somebody help me understand. Those two different areas, right?
But it still affects the Privet building.
So it sounds like the parking is the concern, whether they have assigned parking. Because the access, that's like
I thought Rodney said he was okay with the 10, and I thought that's what they.
but he said it wasn't designated.
So
I think
the 8
was
is what they want.
I would love to see a copy of the signed agreement, knowing that both parties are in agreement.
And we have that in here, right?
That's fine.
No, within 30 days, the stipulation.
But it's not a requirement.
Yeah,
We
it's just
cannot
whatever
deny
they
a
come up
site
with,
plan
we
because
get a
of that.
copy of. So
So I don't think they're losing anything other than the parking. Because do they have assigned parking now? maybe.
Well, I think they were talking about the parking was the one issue. I think the other issue was the 14 feet, because they have people that go into the side because there's access doors to different businesses on that side.
But you can have use to that forever.
Right.
Per the attorney.
Yeah, if
Access
somebody
and
from
use.
Cobblestone's not sitting there, parked there, then they
No, I'm not
can't.
talking about parking, Jack, I'm talking about the access. We're talking about the access.
Yeah, just have 14
So
foot
they have
access on the side of
access.
the building.
And then the parking, Rodney said he was okay with. Isn't that what he said? Am I not clear?
Yeah.
If the intent is to require an agreement, it would be a very small amendment to the EDA. To offer a modest proposal to give you a sense of how much power the board does have, the board at this point is fully able to grant an easement to whomever it wishes on its own property. It has not yet entered into any agreements with anyone.
Okay. Then I would like for this to be mandatory that a signed agreement by both parties be in place as part of this development agreement.
Before we go any further.
Yeah.
No, I'm asking. Because it's not just that 14 feet there, it's also on the back side too.
Yeah, there's another 14 feet on the opposite, or on the other side of the building as well, yeah.
About two
It runs up
different
your other side of
sides.
your building, yeah. So it's access to both sides of Privet's building, basically. And Cobblestone's buildings, yeah.
It's already gonna be a point of contention now, so it really needs to be resolved before we move any further.
It really does.
I don't know that it has to hold us up though, because
No, we can say that it has to be done within 30 days,
Right.
but if it's not done, then the development agreement is null and void.
But Rodney mentioned the concern for the parking was fine, and if he's getting access for the
Not
14
what I
feet
heard.
in perpetuity, I don't understand.
That's not what I heard.
Did he not say that?
Did we get that clarified? Is there a way to do that?
What was the question again?
I thought that when Rodney was sharing, he shared the two concerns. He talked about the parking, and he said what they had initially asked for was assigned parking, which they did not get. And then he said the 14 feet was his concern, that he wanted that deeded back to him. And their concession was the 14 feet they would have permitted access and use in perpetuity. So you're still getting access and use. I don't know how that stops your customers from coming through, or anybody from coming through. So I think we're conflating the two
If
together.
Mr. Privet is here, I'd like to bring him back and ask him.
And what's your question, Jackie?
Yeah, what his concern is, because I thought that he wanted the yellow part for himself.
No, I don't
I think he wanted control of it.
Yeah, he wanted control of it, yes.
Because he said it wasn't developable. I did write that down. It can't be developed on.
Right, but
I
it
guess
still-
my
it still
question,
can be infringed
David,
upon, though.
being this is a agreement, it's not a, agreement is a agreement between two parties. Can we actually make changes to the agreement tonight without the other party agreeing to it?
My suggestion is that this is the town's property. So if the town has desires about how it wishes that property to be treated, or it wishes to impose easements for the benefit of others on that property, the town could certainly consider that. Now, there is a process for giving private parties interest in town property, and we would need to do that. But we have that power. And it certainly is important that our economic development partners know that.
I guess what I want to be clear about, Commissioner Wilson feels I guess we may be losing some authority if we agree tonight on things. Is he valid in that? Because I think if he is, then it may be a good concern. But these three motions, does that take power away from us in the future?
If we were to approve the purchase agreement this evening, we would no longer have the ability to impose an easement on our own property without breaching that purchase agreement. Now, that is not to say there are not a number of other things that the town could do. For example, the economic development partner still needs to receive the town's support for a rezoning. And that is a legislative decision of this body.
David, but that sounds like you're kind of holding something over one party versus the other to do it
Yeah,
that way.
yeah, I'd like for,
There either.
yeah, I'd like for Mr. Privet
say, can we hear from
to
Roger?
come to the podium a minute.
We just need to clarify, like, break those two apart.
Yeah,
The
Yeah.
parking and the
Clarify
parking first.
Yeah, are you pleased with the parking?
The parking, we had originally talked about 12 to 15 spaces. They came back and offered 8. We compromised with 10, and as long
Okay,
as we could
so
work
you're
on
okay with that?
the 10 in the, on their property, 10.
All right, the 14 feet, what concerns you about that?
14 feet is what I was asking for, is to get this 14 feet back. And it, like you said, like I think the attorney said, the town owns that now. We wanted to get the 14 feet that we gave up for the easement for the tower back under our control.
Under your control?
That's right.
Right.
Now, we can't do anything with it. They walk on it, we walk on it. Maybe we get that back, then we'll turn around and give them a easement for them to walk on it or do whatever they want to on it. But, like they're trying to offer us, because, like I said, what they would do is allow us to be able to get down beside our building, walk in our building. If we want to put awnings up or decorate the side of the building, do whatever, we could do so. And we'd also could go back there and service the back of the property, no questions asked, no problem, not having to drive over sidewalks and come in from the back and run over landscaping to get that, which is what they're going to have. It's going to be pretty the way they're going to have it, but we can't drive over their stuff to get to the back of our building.
So,
Okay, so why can't we give them the
Well,
easement?
let me make sure I understand. Do you say you want to own it?
right, I don't understand the own
You want to
part.
own it? You want
Yeah.
to deed it to you?
Yes.
So are you going to buy it? I mean, you want to buy it from the town?
That's an option, yes. Well, because I said, we talked to Mike Moss about surveying. We'll take care of the survey, whatever we need to take care of to get that settled.
Because that is a different, that
It's
is
a
a different.
14-foot strip right there.
That's a
that,
different matter. Because they're offering you permitted use and access in perpetuity, which is forever. So you'd still have the same access without owning it.
Yeah, but we would like to own it. I don't know that. If it was further away from our building, that would be fine. But it's not but just a few feet from our building.
Gotcha. And then there was some mention of the back of your building. Can you clarify for the board? Was there a
Well,
concern with the back?
that just came about in the last few days when we asked about the 14 feet. Nothing was mentioned about that until they came back with a proposal. Then they wanted to go back and get 14 feet across the back of our building back there because they've had to move their building from what I gather, because of the easement to the tower. They've moved their building on the West Young side, right on the property line, and they're saying they wanted to get to that, which they can come from each side right there. It's not going to be completely blocked off, whatever. Whereas we couldn't get to anything back there with the way it was, but they would be able to get to the back of that building on that west side,
And
the
y'all-
West Young Street side.
And you're good with that?
No, not good with them giving them easement to get back there. No, we don't have no much space.
I'm confused.
Please come up there and look at it. I invite you to come up there and look at it. We'll show it on the map, show it.
So there's not an easement in the back right now, is what you're saying?
No, nothing.
Like right up to the-
Any other questions?
No, I mean, we're dealing with cramped space, and
It
it's
is.
and it's to their detriment.
So they're wanting to.
That 14 feet with whether they own it, Cobblestones, or we own it, whatever, it's there. Nothing can be built on it. I mean, it's there. But that would give us some future saying, hey, they don't have us blocked up. We can get in and out if we have to. We can service the back of the building. We can walk through there. They can walk through there, whatever. It'll be used like it's been used all these for 60-some years, except for it's not going to be a drive. You can't drive around it with vehicles like they're doing now. But it's been there for over 60 years.
That makes a big difference, though.
So who can drive on it?
Nobody's going to be driving on it.
If they do it, nobody drives. Now, if you had to get back there with a service vehicle, you could go back. If you had to replace the heat and air unit, you could get back there and do that. But no, you will not be able to drive on it like that once they build their.
They're building on it. Because right now, you can drive out of it because it's a one-way, right?
It's a one-way.
I went down the wrong way once, sorry.
The alley was.
Hey,
Yeah.
we did that years ago. The town, nobody put that. We put that sign up ourselves so there was so much traffic, so nobody would go out on the 401 because people coming from this side of town would turn left to go in there. for years and years, and you'd have a head-on collision right there in the intersection. So we fixed it where you go in and you go out on West Young. Go in off of South Main, go out on West Young. That would end because of the development.
Town
Would
could
be an
just keep it as an
alternate
easement.
idea, like an alternate option, for them to have access without, for you to still have control and for them to still have access. What would be an alternate option?
Well,
That makes-
let me tell you what the problem's going to be if he doesn't own it. You got 2 points of ingress and egress, and somebody's going to see that, and they're going to use it to get out. It's common sense.
We believe that it'll be marked and only
For one way,
access,
yeah.
access
Just
only.
marked it.
So if you guys want to bring up, it's page 40 of our agenda packet, so you can see that map actually.
Yeah.
It clearly shows the property line is right along his building. And it runs right along the one side of the first floor retail space of the proposed building on Cobblestones as well. His property runs on the back side of that.
All right, any additional questions for Mr. Privet before he leaves?
That's it, we just wanted to confirm.
We just need to clarify those two.
So to clarify, you want to maintain the type of, for lack of a better word, ownership that you
I
have
just feel like it's a
back there
reasonable
already.
request. I feel like it's a reasonable request because he was there first.
I just don't understand the ownership piece. That's the only thing I'm struggling with. I don't understand. If you
Because
can get
if neither one of them owns it, it's,
Yeah.
they're going to be,
I don't get it.
maybe not for sure, but there's going to be conflicts over there all the time. Driving back there, loading, unloading, I mean, is
Yeah,
that a
it
possibility?
it doesn't look like it's gonna be,
No, you won't be able to do that. Matter of fact, town manager Mike could answer that because we discussed that about it. The street, they're gonna have the lines crossed. It's not gonna be a,
Main Street
if you had to get up there
project
for
we're
emergencies or get back there to, for construction or whatever, yes, or for maintenance, you could, but it's not gonna be a
It's not gonna be
in and
easy
out.
access.
So your
No.
fear of losing control of that would mean what? What is the worst thing that could happen?
What's that now?
What is the worst thing or something that you feel is going to happen if you lose control of that space?
Well, one thing is our employees that park on their property way back wherever they can and coming up there, bringing stuff in and out and trying to get in our building. If you see Commissioner Vega showing, we don't have it just a couple of feet there. I mean, if we can't control that, I don't trust the situation of being able to get in and out on somebody else's property. And like I said, if they want to reverse it, if we end up with it, we buy it from the town or whatever, we'll turn around and give them an easement to it, let them go walk up and down it like they're trying to give it to us to walk up and down it, but at least we would control it, and we would like, hey, I don't mean, we were there first, and we need some space to get in and out, and it'd be different if we had, you know, you go to a lot of towns now, you've got all your older buildings on Main Street, you've got a street every so often, you go around behind the buildings and park. I think about Apex and old downtown Cary and places like that, and even Wake Forest or whatever. You got a lot of buildings. You park in the back and walk around there. We don't have that luxury. All that'll be gone. So this is the only thing we can do.
So one last time, any questions for Rodney? I'm gonna let him go so we can move on.
I have a suggestion.
Well, that's, while he's here, or,
No, you made.
all right, let's keep it in order. So, and we probably need David back in the room too.
Okay.
So, thank you, Rodney. If we know. if we
Okay,
got
well, I'll be
another-
out there.
Got
a little
another
longer.
question, we'll let you know, but I think you answered all the questions right now.
And again, I invite all 5 of y'all to come up and take a look. Come up and take a look. I'll have the copies of the map and pretty simple. And you just need to see, once you see it on the ground, I think you'll understand more about what we're talking about and what we're requesting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Rodney. Okay. Which one of you guys?
So, due to the fluidity of this discussion, we're 99.9%. We almost got it. But 50% we're trying to solve tonight. We would like to request a 5-minute break. And what we want to talk about and come back to you to talk about is how to make this statement a requirement. therefore we do it right, not try and do it right now, but if we can get 5 minutes, we could work up something that says, what I'm hearing is you'd like to make sure there's a requirement for bullet one, and we'll talk about what that means, if you could give us 5 minutes.
So a requirement is that they would have to come to a private agreement.
So then that takes that burden off of us.
So if you wouldn't mind taking a 5-minute break and give us 5 minutes, we'll come back and see if we hit the target.
Okay? Well, let April know we're on a 5-minute
Okay.
break.
Thank you.
I gotta use the bathroom.
Thank you.
5 minutes. Let's be back at 8:40. Thank you.
Hey, Michael, is Amy over there? Can I see her for a second? Thank you.
The idea is
Are you Robin?
for care of the building that you're building to the property line. Yep. That is perpetual until and unless.
At our expense.
Yeah. He's talking about property lines. Talking about the one that you all own. Correct. You're right. The easement. So an easement.
I was waiting for a date from you.
Someone else's property.
I'm sorry, I didn't know you were waiting for one from
Want to
me.
use it for the care and maintenance.
I can do it,
of the side
Friday. Oh, Friday's not enough
of your
notice.
building,
Huh?
right? However, under the zoning ordinance, he right now has the ability to.
For what, this
go
Friday?
Right up to the property.
Okay.
And that's the way central business districts used to.
Oh, that's
work.
too long
Used to
then.
build right up to the line, and you created a party.
Because we're gonna be meeting soon.
You guys should enter into an easement and party wall agreement now, so that you have access now, and if and when someday, 10, 50 years from now, they.
I'll talk to Ronnie, because I really don't want to keep it open that long, because
Build out to the party wall.
any excuse for citizens to say, that's not fair, you didn't have all your board members there yet again.
Maintenance access now, because
No, I think they need a full board.
he should go for that, because he's no.
Because
longer
what happened was,
losing right to
somebody
develop
wasn't
his
there.
property in the future.
And they held that against the board.
Thing on the side, to the extent he's concerned that you keep saying.
Yeah.
You can't.
They held that
create
against him because he wasn't there, the board wasn't there to give
Be
comment.
concerned about that, because North Carolina.
So now we'll
doesn't
have, you know,
perpetual
there's a,
license. License means.
I just
Okay, call back to order the meeting, and I guess David or Kelly, one of you guys have something for us?
Do you want to make your suggestion? Okay.
Mr. Mayor, after talking with the Privets and with the Cobblestone representatives, I believe that it is possible that the parties could come to an agreement. In fact, I believe it's likely. They're going to need a little time, and they're going to need to have their lawyers available to review any sort of agreement that they can come to. It would be reasonable for the board to be able to shift this burden onto the two of them and clarify the language that the motion would be something along the lines of, you'd be adopting the economic development agreement with the amendment that section 2.1, is it?
2A. 1.
2A be shifted so as to require that an agreement be reached and be sent to us. As to what the terms of that agreement are, the board would not explicitly place any conditions upon that.
I think it's
Okay.
great. Do you need a motion?
No. We're going to do this in order.
Fastest motion in the West.
I should add to this before I turn off the mic, that without your permission, I have volunteered to help mediate that effort.
Okay.
Fine.
All right, I'm going to close the deliberation then, and any other discussion the board wants to have, we'll have it part of the motion in the discussion of motion. So the first order of business, Jackie, is I need a motion on public hearing 1A.
Yes.
The town intends to designate approximately 11 acres of land currently owned by the town being held for economic development purposes in pursuit of NCGS 158.7.1B. And there is no agreement, anything tied to this motion, right? Or there is?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
This is-
And I move to approve the designation for 11 acres for economic development.
Okay, is there a second? I got a motion and a second. All right, now we'll have any discussion on should the town keep the property or use it for economic development. Is there any more discussion on that, basically? All right. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I don't hear no opposes in the room, right? So what's April's vote on that?
April, did you vote?
Aye.
All right.
Okay, I think we had all ayes on that one. Okay, now the second one is the one, Jackie, I think that has the agreement tied to it. So this is item C.
B.
That's right. B. The town intends to convey a fee simple interest in the property which is currently owned by the town to Cobblestone Crossing LLC Cobblestone for economic development purchase project pursuit of NCGS 158-7.1D. And this one will require, if the board approves, the amendment or the suggestions by the attorney.
No, that would be your third vote,
That's the
Mr.
third
Mayor.
one? Okay, is anything tied to this one?
No, the only restriction that this would place upon you as a legal item would be in the event the board's pleasure was to impose an easement, you would no longer be able to do that after voting on this item. But I don't believe you need to do that, as a breach of the economic development agreement is also a default under the purchase agreement, and that would then bring us back to where we are today.
Okay. All right. So I am corrected. The agreement is not attached to this one. So is there a motion?
Can I just say so moved since you read it so
Okay.
eloquently? So moved on B.
Sheila makes the motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Paul seconds. Is there any other discussion on this motion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, I think I heard April with aye, so that one approves unanimously. And then item C, public hearing. The town proposes to enter into an economic development agreement in which the town will partner with Cobblestone to build a town center project in pursuit of NCGS 158-7.1H. And this one requires the change.
Okay, I have one question not related to what we were talking about, and it's in regard to the repurchase option. The repurchase option states that the town has the option to repurchase the property for a price equal to the purchase price, which I understand. Then it says, as such item is defined in the purchase agreement as the repurchase price. I saw nowhere in the purchase agreement where it said that. And I read it twice. Does that mean that if we sell it to them for $2,080,000, that we buy it back for the same amount?
That is correct.
Okay, then I'm fine with that.
And to the extent that isn't clear, we will take another look at it before we hand it to the mayor for execution.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay.
All right. Can I have a motion on this one?
So moved, but don't we need to add something to it?
Okay. Sheila makes a motion
We need to add the stipulation.
as written. Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Wilson seconds it. Is there any other discussion?
We need to add the text or the additional wording to this. That's what
That's right.
The motion.
Yeah.
If I didn't state that plainly, then that is the case.
Yes.
And
So-
do you want to put the words in record, anything?
We don't need it.
It is sufficient for the board to have.
It is sufficient for the board to have instructed the staff to make that amendment, or for the town attorney to make that amendment, and then the mayor will execute it afterward. The town manager points out that it certainly is appropriate for the board to take action tonight, but the date of the agreement will be whenever it is finally signed. So that could be next week, for example.
Right. That clear, Paul?
Yeah, that's clear. Yep.
Okay. So I do have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. I think it approved unanimous on that one too, Madam Clerk. All right. Thank you much. Appreciate everyone coming out. Folks in the other room there, appreciate you coming out. Cobblestone, appreciate you guys coming out. I'm looking excited that we'll move forward, and we got some homework I think we got to do in our next workshop in defining some of the items that Jackie brought up, dealing with parking and that kind of stuff. So we'll be working on that. You guys be working on your end, and we'll move forward. So thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Took a year and a half. Not bad.
Yeah, that's right. The next item is the fire services study contract. This is an item that kind of started with the request of the fire department, which is a rural private fire department here in town. They have their own board of directors, and as the fire department grows, they are now beginning to hire staff, which makes it kind of difficult in their structure and organization to be able to do that competitively with places like Wake Forest, which now have moved with bringing that under the town's umbrella. So they requested us to consider bringing the fire department in as a town entity. I think we are now more than 50% of the calls now are in Rolesville, and I think as we grow, we've approved a lot of neighborhoods lately. We got commercial coming in as we see tonight, and I think we're going to continue to grow where, you know, that percentage is going to be coming higher and higher, where, you know, it's really going to be a town fire department that's not under our leadership. So is this the right time to do it? That's what we need to determine. And I think different people has been working on this off and on. I think what we're considering tonight is approval of a contract to provide that study, and I think Michelle has been kind of working on that. I don't know. I know, you know, all the information has been in your agenda package, and I think everybody's been privy to see, you know, what was taking place. And Kelly, was there any introduction you want to do on this topic, or?
I think Amy's here. She led the original, and so she's here to add more if need be. But I think the information is, you did an excellent job bringing it up to date. We're here to answer any questions. But the panel of 5 met, interviewed, have brought forth a recommendation to the board for your consideration. The agreement does structure that it will be the town as a client, and it will be paid by the town. So tonight we're ready to enter into the agreement, if you are, with North Carolina Fire Chief Consulting, and also an ordinance to amend fiscal year budget to accommodate that price of $11,700, I believe it is, right? $700 for phase 1. This does not include what was proposed as phase 2 or 3 as part of the original proposal, because it calls for both bodies to come to agreement to move further after phase 1.
So as you bring Amy coming in, we recognize you, Amy.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Town Board. I think actually everybody summed it up very well. We did have instructions from you all at the July 21st meeting to go back out and issue a new RFP. I think that was a good decision. We were able to get some additional proposals in and ensure that we had a good proposal or a good menu of proposals to choose from. So we did review the 5 proposals as a smaller subset, and then the larger panel actually interviewed 3 of those vendors through a Zoom meeting. So based on those interviews is where the committee came to the unanimous agreement to recommend the consultant before you tonight.
I have a few questions on cost. So the initial cost, thank you, Amy, for that, is $11,700 approximately, right? That's for phase 1. Did we get any indication of what a phase 2 and 3 would cost to get some sense of an overall cost for this project? I would hope we're able to get that because they work with several municipalities. Do we have any idea on that?
Mm-hmm. Right. So the $11,700 is an estimate, not the way the agreement reads. It is not to exceed.
Gotcha.
Okay. So they're estimating between 68 and 90 hours. I think it's right for that first phase to be done. Probably won't be less than the 68. But if it is, we only pay for the hours we use.
Gotcha.
So if it ends up being a very efficient process, we only pay for the hours that we actually consume. But they have guaranteed a maximum of $11,700 for the first phase.
Right.
Sorry. Then phase 2, based on their experience elsewhere, they're estimating phase 2 to be 300 hours, which would be $42,000. Now, as they've said, that's an outside estimate. And again, that is the absolute max. So if it does not take 300 hours, we only pay for the hours that we actually use.
I suspect it'll be close.
And if I may just add one piece of that, when he presents phase 1, he's going to tell you what he thinks, and you will then start to get a sense of what phase 2 looks like, and that'll give you a perspective then of what that scope of phase 2 would be then if both bodies agree to pursue. So He is just generally guessing based upon his experience what it might take for phase two. It may be significantly less.
And phase 2 was the biggest phase, right?
Phase 2 is the analysis
Yeah.
piece.
And then the third was implementation, okay.
Then any anticipation on cost on phase 3?
Right, so phase 3 actually was one of the things that distinguished this vendor from some of the others, where this is the implementation phase, where they actually stay on board and help us work through implementation, should we get to that point. What they estimated there was 150 hours, so a not to exceed 21,000.
And then how did that pricing compare to the other two that you all interviewed? Because I saw on one of them, it was like 36,000 for I guess it was the first phase. I don't know if it was first phase or total. So I was
Yes.
just trying to compare costs across the board.
So a couple of things. The other proposals were kind of an all-in-one. They didn't really break it out by different phases. It was more of you agree to contract for this total sum. This proposal does allow us at each decision point to stop and say, well, if the two boards aren't in alignment, then we're done, and we don't have to continue. And then, again, the other piece here is that this vendor also included that phase 3, which the other ones did not. So
the other ones don't help with implementation?
yeah, that most of them, they were a little vague,
Very vague.
on their
One of them was very
responses when it
vague,
came
like-
to the implementation piece.
I was almost a little shocked when the question was asked, I thought. I caught off guard. I'm like, well, we could. And I think there was the issue with that one. Weren't they like in Chicago or something? So, but they've done work around here before. I'm not sure necessarily North Carolina, I can't remember. But I don't know, this here group seems to have all their ducks lined up on how this is going to work, how they've done it in the past, and how they were successful in doing it. So, and they had definitely, I was impressed with what they did with Wake Forest, and I also spoke with some of the commissioners from Wake Forest on how it went for them, and they said it was a long process, but they held true to what they said they would do, and they were pleased with the outcome.
And what was the cost on the other one? Because I couldn't find it or I missed it. I had tried data as 36,000, but I don't know what the other one was, the cost.
Right, 36,000 for Tri-Data. The other one that we interviewed was 34.5.
And they were all inclusive, like total project too.
They did not break out cost by phase.
So we can't negotiate.
But was that that wasn't their final price though, was it, Amy? For either one, was that their final price, or it could go higher than
We
that?
believe there was elements missing.
Okay,
comparatively.
all right, there was
That's what
something
that was
there.
at the end of the day. We had apples and oranges a little bit.
Yeah, because that's a huge difference in pricing.
But it all depends on what you're getting for it too, though.
Right, but I'm saying if that's the true pricing, that's huge. Am I not adding that right? I'm not a mathematician or a finance person, but I could do simple math.
Well, it depends on if they were on phase 1 through 3 or phase 1 and 2 only.
Right, but she
Yeah.
said the first one, the 36, was the whole thing.
Probably not up to phase 3, not implementation. Neither one of the other two offered implementation services.
So then we're at 11.7 and 21,000 then for what they would have been.
74,000 versus 36 or 34, but we're not sure.
They weren't inclusive.
That's like a double difference. The only concern I have, and I'm sitting here looking at the pictures that call it out, they've only worked in North Carolina. That could be looked at as a plus. It could also be looked at as a slush bucket. So that's my concern.
Did you call any of the other towns that they worked at? Because they're all listed here
No,
too.
but they have us listed, and they haven't really worked with us. So that was kind of weird.
They did do some work when they
What they
did
do?
Wake Forest, because it was some combined stuff.
They came and verified the fire station locations for us.
Okay.
Which had to be done because of our growth, because there was
But we didn't pay for that though, right? The town didn't pay for that.
No, the fire
Okay.
department paid for it, but as far as our placement of our stations versus one in particular where Wake Forest has one close to our borderline.
On Rolesville Road, right?
Does the board have any more questions for Amy? No?
Yes, go ahead, April. She might.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So their estimate is based on the job that they did for Wake Forest and the hours that they're going to need. Is that correct? Since this is the only other transition they've done.
What's the question? Can you
The
repeat the
question is, are there hours based upon their experiences in Wake Forest? And
That's my understanding, yes.
we believe that is true. That's what they presented. They did say that this effort and size is not as big. Therefore, that's why they put in this 300 hours, but they said it would not, they don't think it's gonna be that much. So that number, when they come back after phase one, I suspect it's gonna be significantly reduced because they're gonna know what the scope and size of the issue is gonna be versus Wake Forest is significantly bigger. So they estimated on the high end of the effort.
Okay. That's what I assumed, and that's what I was thinking since Wake Forest is much bigger. Okay, thank you.
speaker on the bottom of your phone? We just can't hear. That's okay. I just wondered if it was.
The only thing that I didn't, that I still question, and not because of who this company is just splitting the fees or not splitting the fees. I understand why we are paying for it. But I just really wasn't comfortable with that, but I understand why. Because then you retain ownership of the work. There's
I
no.
thought Dave said we could split the fees and retain ownership.
Yeah,
Right,
my original
right.
my original recommendation was split.
Yeah.
Right, and so,
Why are we paying for the whole thing? What-
no, that's the only part that I've read, and I saw that part, and I meant to
I
actually.
heard that from the board, but if I got it wrong, you should redirect it and ask if they'll pay.
I mean, because
Because we talked about it at that meeting too.
Talked about that at
online.
length.
No, even before here, we talked about it when we were online with them. I thought we did, didn't we?
Yeah, we spoke about who are these people working for? Are they working for the fire department or are they working for us?
Right, but I thought the five of us had a quick conversation about who was
And I
going to
can
pay
tell
for
you the
it.
fire department is receptive in sharing the cost.
That makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, because if the fire department pays for the whole thing, it's going to look like it's going to benefit them. If we pay for the whole thing, we might say, they might say, oh, you're just saying that because you guys pay for it. But both pay for it. I feel like we have an equal hand in it with the results. It should be fair. and
I know, that's
balanced.
the only part that I saw, and I meant to, I didn't call you
No, that's
earlier.
fine.
I meant to.
No, it's-
But that's the only part, because I could have sworn that when we
I
were
had no
speaking
problem with that.
with Joel and with Rodney, I thought that was not an objection to them.
No,
We just need to clarify
Not.
where the results were gonna go, and, because I think also with this air company, they had stated that they would be reporting to the town. Yeah, so I'm like, they're reporting to the town, the fire department's good with that. I just didn't get why we were paying for the whole thing.
Yeah, I like the split cost thing. I also like our not to exceed pricing. I like that too. I don't want this estimate of it. It might be this, and then
Then
it's,
it
it's,
balloons.
yeah, and then it's
So the first phase is not to exceed.
right.
And then when we do the second phase negotiation, it'll be a not to exceed. And you'll have the same discussion.
Okay. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Other than that, I thought they were very impressive.
Okay, somebody want to
I'll make a motion. I will. I'll make a motion to hire NCFCC for Phase 1 of the Fire Services Study as outlined in their proposal, and authorize the town manager to execute a contract and approve the 2021 fiscal year budget ordinance amendment to appropriate funds for this purpose.
And split costs?
And split the cost.
Split the cost with the fire.
Yes, I'm sorry. That was.
I'll second that motion.
Cool.
Yeah.
Are you good, Ronnie?
Yeah,
Did we do
I
it too
am.
fast?
I am. Any other discussion? Does April have any discussion on the phone?
Any questions, April?
I do not.
She does not.
All right. So I have a motion and a second. If there's no other discussion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, wait, there is something I want to say. It's going to be quick. Had you all read their proposal? I don't know, I was impressed with that. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was
I
April?
was
What was
impressed with
April's
it.
vote?
Was your vote? What was your vote, April?
No, sorry.
Aye.
Good. So it sounded like it was unanimous approved.
And I didn't want to say this earlier because I didn't want to bias, your votes, but I did bring this up at one of our Wake County mayors meetings, association meeting, and Vivian happened to be there. Y'all know Mayor Vivian Jones, and she asked me after the meeting who were we using, and I told them we were kind of looking at a few contractors, and this was one of them. And she highly recommended that they did a great job with Wake Forest, and it was no real serious issues or anything to come up. And she said that she would really recommend, as critical as this process is, she would really recommend using them because this is a big decision here. And people with the most experience and most knowledge that can give you the best information is kind of where we need to go, even if it costs a little bit more probably. But sounds like we may have got the cost down tonight. But so I guess next item, Jackie would have to take it to the fire board and get them approved, paying half of it. And
I'll reach out to them in the morning.
Good.
Can I add a couple things? So,
Yep.
Thank you to the committee that worked on this to get all of this great information. It was a lot of reading, but it was good information. But I think that's the fair process that this town always needs to follow, to reach out to vendors to make sure that there's a fair process and not just go with somebody we know or somebody that somebody used, but to really seek out. To me, that's prudent use of the town's money to make sure that we're getting what we are saying that we're getting. So I appreciate us taking the time to do this. I think it makes sense and it's there for the public to see. So thank you all.
Thank you, Sheila. So are you ready to do the budget amendment tonight? Being that
Your
it's
motion includes-
It included it.
Oh, it was?
Voted on.
Because I know the budget amendment probably amount changed. So, okay, so you'll fix that then. That'd be fine. All right, so what we have left is, I kind of, and I'll take the responsibility, because I didn't really pay a lot of attention to it when it came out. But Elena out at Triangle J has sent out the summit, and I know a lot of you participated in the summit, and they're doing it different this year. It's a virtual summit, and it's 5 meetings rather than one big day. I think it's 5 different times. The focus of the summit has to do with equality, how we, I think all five,
Ronnie, is it 5 in the same day or is it each week?
it's I don't know if it's each week, but
It's
it's
each
not the
week.
same day.
Not the same day. Yeah.
I think it may be each week. I think it may be
Yeah,
5
it
straight
is.
Thursdays, but I may
Like
be
the
wrong about that.
17th and the 24th and
Right.
like that.
So, I know for one, the second one, I won't be able to attend because of some doctor appointments and stuff. But, and I don't know if you guys can attend them or not. It's very cheap. It's $20, I think, for all 5 sessions, I believe. So, it's not too late to sign up, I don't think, if you guys want to sign up. And again, I apologize for not sharing that quicker, because I didn't really realize that it went to just me. So I'll take that one on myself and watch out for it. But were you aware of it, Michelle?
Yeah, I had gotten an email as well.
You did?
Yeah,
So
because
had you
of-
already
because
signed
of-
up?
I
or-
did.
Okay.
Somebody took care of it today, just for 2.
So you're part of the blame too, Mayor Pro Tem. You didn't share it either with the rest of the board.
He just pulled you right in.
Yeah.
It's comfortable under the
share
bus
it.
sometimes.
We'll share it, okay?
That comes with the title, I guess.
But if y'all can, I think from what I read of the 5 sessions is very beneficial, and it's a lot to learn from that. Michelle, anything else you want to? I know you may have looked at the 5. Anything else you want to say about that?
Really, no. There's just one of them that I don't think I'm going to be a part of, but I think conflict-wise, but thank God it's not the one I wanted anyway. But they look pretty interesting, and the climate that we're in now, I mean, you're never going to be, you'll never get enough information about this topic. You know what I mean? Like when you know, diversity, inclusion, all that's important. And each time you go to a different seminar, you're going to hear something different that you didn't hear in the previous one. So I think it's important that when you can get this information, when you have access to it, to definitely take advantage of it and listen, ask questions, be a part of it, help to be a part of the solution.
Okay.
Hour and a half each time, and they're spread out. They're not every Thursday. They're spread out a little bit. So we got time.
The first 3 weeks are.
Yeah. I mean, you're on
And
Thursday.
you don't have to sign up for all 5 now, too. You can, yes.
I think you registered one time for all of them, I think, and no?
I think so.
You and I signed up for one. Today Michelle signed up for 2. You can come back and re-sign up.
I got you. I didn't realize that.
So you can see how your calendar is floating if you want for a period of time.
Got you. Okay. Well, I hope you guys can participate in that if you can. If you can't, we understand that. That's really all I have. Does the board have anything to bring up before I will ask for a motion to go into closed session?
I do want to bring one thing up, but it's a little housekeeping. Kelly, no, I'll talk to you about it later, Kelly. Has anybody seen a lot of hawks in the area lately?
Vultures or hawks?
Vultures, maybe. The ones that
Yeah.
eat everything, you have?
Yeah, it's
They're hawks, right?
over, and I saw them the other day. It came up back in November when we was out, canvassing and stuff. It's somewhere between East Young Street and the village of Rolesville on this side of it. It's a flock of them that kind of go back and forth in that area. And
I can tell you, I went back behind Food Lion just because I hadn't done it in a long time in my car. And they were all over the place. And then somebody wrote me today and said that I guess they're being fed or something. There's some type of feeding going on back there for cats, and the vultures are now back there. And I wasn't expecting that when I went back there. I just was taking a different route.
Big and creepy.
They're huge.
it's a lot. If you ever seen them, it's
and
a
their
lot of them.
wingspan is incredible,
Yep.
and it's becoming problematic. So
Honey,
I
they're
don't know what we
scary.
can do. I just want to bring that up.
I stopped walking that way because they freaked me out. I was like,
They're so big. I think they can pick you up. Right? They're huge.
They're
We had the concern, as Mayor said, it was late last year. It was
We have that development.
over by Young Street, and in fact, they were roosting on homes over there. And it appeared at that time, there was some area to the south that they might have been accessing for food. We don't know, or what.
So the
Because
south-
we did look into what we could do about it, and there's very, very limited, there's not much to do. It falls under Department of Wildlife. And we could not come to the conclusion that we could take any action. Now, if we find that there is feeding in town limits, purposeful, then we could probably address something.
oh, you need a picture of her?
No, well,
She's always.
yeah, I know what you're talking about, but if it's becoming more of a nuisance, then it's raised to my level so far in the last 2 years, then we could probably address it to some extent. But
I'm sure the cat food's drawing them right in because they are right in that area.
Kelly, I'm just going to show you when we're done. These are some of the pictures that I took.
All right, let's go.
And the other complaint I've heard a couple times still has to do with the bypass and cutting grass out there. I know we cut some this week.
Yeah.
Because I was out there and I saw them cutting. I'm not sure if they're going all the way up to the U-turn places or not. I heard that they didn't. And those are dangerous and,
DOT, the
Huh? but we have to tell them to do it, I think. We have to keep on them to get them to do it.
And is there a reason they don't get the trash up? They just cut it and leave it flying?
Don't get off the tractor. They just don't get off the tractor. Just go right through
Fly,
it.
right? Let it rip. Okay.
Yep, let it rip.
I do want to
That's good.
mention one thing for a future consideration that I think we need to come back to is the, and I forgot this earlier, sunset clause on development. We talked about that a little bit, but I'm always just driving around town going, so hey, when we gonna start on that? I really think we need to talk about that.
can you bring that up next week? Because you discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause isn't it a 2-year sunset right now on
Have
something?
one.
No.
No.
Oh, we
Don't
talked
have
about it,
one?
Jackie, but I
Oh,
don't
I
think we
thought we-
implemented it.
Have one.
Oh my goodness, I told a developer
That's what we need one.
that,
Yeah.
that we had, that it was 2 years, I thought. Seems like back when we were on
Well,
the
you-
board before. Oh, if somebody took something to the board and it was turned down, they couldn't bring it back for rezoning for 2 years at one time.
I don't know. And we'll get in some details, maybe, David. Be prepared to talk about that next week, because I was thinking that zoning is no sunset on zoning, but I may be wrong about that.
On construction, I
Change
thought.
of zoning, there's no sunset on it, right? But,
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
But Sheila, just to.
But I will
what
be
you said,
prepared to talk about that at our next meeting.
okay, good.
There's a shortage of materials too, so that's a factor into what we may be seeing as well.
Right,
Building-
and obviously
building
you could build
materials.
in economic components in that, but to just be sitting, it's like, what's the progress? What's going on? Just something for us to think about. I mean, barring
You're talking
economic
about the one,
concerns.
I think that you drive by so frequently, we've been told the next 30 days.
How you know we gotta drive?
You want me to make a motion then?
Redford and Main Street.
See, that wasn't even the one I was thinking.
No.
of.
All right, Jackie, you want to make your motion?
Yeah, I make a motion, we go into closed session pursuant to NCGS 143-318-11A6 to discuss personnel.
Second.
I hear a motion, a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Not hearing any. Did we get a vote from April?
You good with, you good, April?
Yep.
Yes.
Good. All right. We are in closed session. Thank you, board. Appreciate your hard work tonight. Thanks a lot.